Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, depending where you're at. Kevin Carpenter here with Katie. Um, Catherine, if you look at her, tag in her talk, but I go by Katie, and you'll notice we're twinsies this morning because Katie is she's a wonderful volunteer, and I think this is like your third year, like third conference volunteering with me, isn't it, or fourth?
It's third.
Third, yeah. So no, this will be your fourth.
Yeah,
Is CppCon, then C++
it's my
now.
second time at C++ now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So sorry, not trying to split hairs there, but so my point there is if you volunteer and, you do a great job like Katie does, you definitely get invited back. Um, so are you excited for C++ now?
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it literally since I left C++ now last year.
So it's funny because if you haven't seen the movie Space Camp, Katie and I were talking before and we've been joking, okay, Space Camp, I just aged myself. But this is C++ camp in Aspen. You want to come. If you don't have tickets yet, you want to go get tickets. It's, April 29th to May 3rd. Would you disagree? I mean, Aspen's like the most beautiful place. It's a small group
It's
of coders. Tell me about it.
it's during mud season, so it's in between the winter season and the summer season for Aspen, which means that basically the only people there are us. And so it's super secluded, super quiet, and it becomes basically a bunch of programmers who are talking about C++ around Aspen. So it's almost like summer camp, but as adults. And so it's super fun and you really get to know a lot about C++ and get to interact with the community. I mean, the community that goes to C++ ends up being more of the experts. So it's kind of known that there are more experts in the room than the presenter up in front.
Okay. So I also have to laugh because you can tell that, Katie's actually from Colorado because she calls it mud season. The slopes are no longer skiable, but you can't take you can't take a bicycle down them either, right? Is that mud season?
Pretty much. It's also just muddy from like the snow melting. I'm optimistically hoping that ski season keeps going so I can get some runs on the way up to Aspen and some runs on the way down from Aspen. But
So Christy's
we'll
hoping that we have snow again. So, because like we did in 2022, she's out in the snow just enjoying it. And then Chris will have to make snow angels, right?
I mean, it's critical. Snow angels and snowmen are the critical part of having snow.
Oh,
And you're in Colorado, so what else are you gonna do?
absolutely. And we're earlier this year by a week, which means the airport is actually open. So you can actually fly in and not have to take the bus back. So, fly in on Sunday, fly out on Friday. We've got you covered. So the other reason I have Katie here today, though, is because this is her first year speaking at C++ now. Now, she did give a full talk at CppCon last year, which was absolutely wonderful. If you get a chance, go watch it on YouTube. How you feeling about your talk coming up?
I'm definitely thinking we're getting ready for it. We'll see how it goes. I'm making it super interactive. Basically, what I'm doing is my talk is newer isn't always better, and we're going to be investigating some legacy design trends and their modern replacements. And so it's going to be super interactive. We're going to be talking about different parts of C++, old features moving up to their new replacements, and basically taking a look at it and saying, is the new thing that we replaced it with better, or are we looking at it with a little bit different of a lens because it's not the old thing that we hate, and trying to figure out kind of, is there an improvement or should we still be using the old pattern?
That'll be interesting. And when you say super interactive, just to everybody that's listening, if you haven't been to C++ now, there's microphones on the audience because that is the kind of um, that's the kind of interfacing with the speaker. It's like they want to make sure that they capture all the conversation going on. So I'm kind of curious. You'd mentioned Ben Dean when you gave a practice run of this, and I'm just kind of laughing because I think of previous, last year was the first year that they did the mic on the audience, and so that they could capture everyone, asking the speaker questions and stuff. Are you ready for it?
I don't think so. I think there's this level of like, it can go anywhere. So the minute you open the door and make everything interactive, anyone can say whatever. And so I think it's really interesting because in a lot of ways, these people in the audience are the people who wrote the standard, are the people who are writing the implementations in Boost. And so if I'm talking about like template metaprogramming and some of the weird warnings and errors that come with it. You probably have people who've been reading them for years and can obviously look at it and know what's going on, but you also have that level of, oh, I wrote it and this is obviously what you do, or people who write modern things such as concepts, and we're still figuring out how to write concepts as like general programmers in industry. And so the people who wrote the standard are going to be like, oh, obviously there's a better way to do this. And that's not something that I'm going to know about kind of walking in the room. And so by opening that door, that's allowing for a lot of really good conversation and a lot of learning for all of us.
So I think that's the important part you just said, because that's the, there's a lot of, like, I think of talks that I've given, and there's a lot of, here's what I think is my position, or, here's what I think is the result of what I've learned. But that is, I think, the part with C++ now that's just different because it's a smaller conference. I think we top out at about 150, 160 people, and that's it. So buy your tickets now if you don't have them. But then you get that integration of the conversation, and not just in the room, but then outside the room too, right? Everybody in between breaks and everything. It's just like camp. So will you be ready when Ben corrects you?
I hope so. I did a practice run. We got through some of the errors, got it so that way it's a little bit better. It's definitely interesting talking with so many C++ professionals because you write something down and suddenly everyone's looking at it and they can find every potential flaw in it and pull things back from like, oh, with the Myers singleton pre C++ 11, it was not thread safe. And that's something that like I put in my presentation, but it's something that like for me, I'd be like, oh, is this super obvious? But someone in the audience when I practice ran it was like, oh, obviously it's not thread safe pre C++ 11. And so having these people with this variety of backgrounds dating back to like pre 2011, pre 2000, you're having that interesting interaction of that timeline, which is something that I know I've been really interested in, is the timeline and evolution and understanding kind of why we've done the things that we did.
And that's interesting too, because C++ now, if you don't know, originally came from BoostCon. And so it's been running for many years. But to Katie's point, it's like the level and depth of knowledge of the attendees is just, for me, it's mind blowing. Like I don't present at C++ now. That's not my thing. So kudos to you, Katie, because but the amount of things that I learned going, just to sit at a table, I was interviewing with Zach the other day, and he was talking about his first time there. He'd only been programming for about 3 years, and he walked in and sat down at a table with Sean Parent and a group of other people, and everybody just pulls you in, and you just, it's such a welcoming crowd.
Yeah, I feel like I learned so much at C++ now that you just like wouldn't learn. It's that knowledge through talking to different people rather than the knowledge through just like listening to a talk. It's like those conversations with people where they're like, people just like to talk about C++, so they're just talking about it in general, and so you learn a lot from just that casual conversation.
So your talk is actually, you're fortunate. You're on Monday, right? I mean, and at 2:30. So for, if you've never given a talk, you want your talk on the first day, right? Because then you can enjoy the rest of the conference. Otherwise, you're working on slides until the last minute. Is that not true?
No, it's definitely true. At CppCon, my talk got moved from Friday to like Monday, and I definitely felt the compression of working on my talk and working on my slides, and you don't realize how much you just like continue to work on them to the end. And so hopefully this time I'm ready for Monday and it'll be awesome.
Yeah, I did a talk at Core C++, which I have to thank them for inviting me. But it was one thing because I followed Bjarne, but at the good point, I followed Bjarne. So it was the first talk right after. After a decompression and an app for hour, I got to enjoy the rest of the conference. Well, we look forward to seeing your talk Monday at C++ Now. And for anyone watching, if you don't have tickets, get them. Get your stuff taken care of and come join us for one of the best conferences in Colorado. I mean, I love all the conferences that I end up working with, but there's just something about Aspen. So come join us for Code Camp. I'll see you at CPP Now, Katie.
See ya.